religious extortion, drive-by shootings, and an attack on the journalists who covered it. This story has remained isolated within Calgary's Punjabi community, as the police have not made any official announcements to the public, while media coverage has been limited to Punjabi language.
There's a lot of Sikh violence that doesn't get mentioned.
This is not merely a story of Sikhs extorting themselves, it has broader implications for Canadians.
I believe there is a lot more to this story, such as immigration, LMIAs, sucking blood from international students.
Our investigation identified the alleged victim, who owns an immigration firm and is involved in the LMIA business. I'm Moka Bezirgan, and here's the background of the story. According to public statements made by the victim, he received a threatening phone call on the night of September 22nd from a Spain phone number, taking responsibility for the drive-by shooting that occurred at his house 2 nights ago, and demanding extortion money. Another call from a US number followed, threatening to kidnap the man if he refuses to pay $150,000 and to collect the money from his family instead after abducting him if he were to refuse. The victim's friend alleged to have recognized the voice of the caller and ascribed it to someone who allegedly extorted another person a few months ago. It appears that the confrontation at Gurdwara Dashmesh took place based on this assumption. Here's an exclusive English translation of the confrontation. While the accused and an international student accompanying him were being arrested by Calgary Police, supporters of the victims can be heard threatening the family of the accused.
Now, Firearms and Gurdwaras, this is not an uncommon incident.
I sat down with a former attendee of Gurdwara Dashmesh, Bob Rai, who was born in Canada and left the religion decades ago due to it being hijacked. You have attended this Gurdwara when you were young, is that so?
Yes, I have attended this Gurdwara when I was younger, and decided to never enter their premises again because they are violent, extremist, terrorist-supporting ideologues, and they share no Canadian values and have no place in Canada.
Bob's assessment of Dashmesh Gurdwara may sound too harsh to outsiders, but he is factually correct. This Gurdwara, where the confrontation occurred, serves as the cultural hub of Calgary's Punjabi community. Inside the Gurdwara, pictures of suicide bombers, Babar Khalsa terrorists, and religious extortionists exist in a glorifying manner. The Gurdwara is tied to the radical Khalistani World Sikh organization. The Gurdwara also serves as a base for a US-based organization, Sikhs for Justice, which organized the Khalistan referendum in Calgary this past July. At this event, Santong Singh Kella, a man who was previously sentenced to life in prison by a Canadian court for conspiring to bomb an Air India flight departing from New York in 1986, was presented with an award by Ajaib Singh Bagri, another previously charged conspirator, for his involvement in the 1985 Air India bombing.
Listen, Khela is not a terrorist. India is a terrorist.
It's also worth mentioning that the event was dedicated to 1985 Air India bombing co-conspirator Talvinder Singh Parmar. The Gurdwara is also a political powerhouse. Calgary Mayor Jyoti Gandek, Liberal MP George Jahal, Conservative MPs Jasraj Hallan and UCP Minister Rajan Savni, among others, are regulars at this extremist Gurdwara. Given the depth of violence and extremism associated with Canadian Sikh Gurdwaras, you might ask why none of this is shown in the media.
Here up in Canada, they have this thing called hate speech.
I posed that question to Dr. Paul Bullen, who holds a PhD in political science from the University of Chicago.
The United States, they have the First Amendment, and theoretically you're allowed to say whatever you want. But I mean, there are certain limits. But there's no such thing called hate speech that's illegal. Here up in Canada, they have this thing called hate speech. So if some authority deems that what you said was insufficiently pleasant about some group, you can get in big trouble. So as a result, then groups like the Sikhs don't get treated in a kind of down-to-earth, serious way. So for example, a few months ago, there was this anniversary of the bombing of the Air India flight 182. The slant was, oh, Canadians don't even know this is the biggest terrorist attack on Canadian soil, blah, 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 blah. And why don't they realize this took place? And then the argument was, well, it was because most people on there were Indian, and therefore that's why they don't care about it. Well, they never once mentioned that it was Sikhs who blew up the airplane, because you don't want to be impolite, And so there's not an unwillingness to kind of deal with certain situations honestly and frankly. That doesn't mean you've got to go be tearing down some religion, but there's a lot of Sikh violence that doesn't get mentioned.
This could be why the Calgary Police made no public announcements about the arrests. It may also explain why the mainstream media turned a blind eye to it. However, Red FM Calgary was one channel that did not ignore the story. They interviewed the victims and published a piece shortly after the incident. This coverage resulted in an attack on the editor of Red FM.
This was not a personal attack on me alone. This was an assault on the very principles that bind us as a free and democratic society.
One critical admission from the victim was that the accused allegedly clocked the extortion demand under a religious demand called daswand. This is a crucial detail. What is daswand?
Dasvand means that every Sikh should contribute money in the name of God for some type of proactive or positive community service. Modern Sikhs are starting to, like in this case, use the word dasvand in order to almost circumvent the word extortion. It is ironic that the accused extortionist, his name is Gursevik, which means a servant of God, and Gursevik is asking somebody for money for God.
On September 28, following the arrest of the alleged extortionist, Gurdwara Dashmesh organized a press release where some of the politicians I listed also shared their perspectives. The whole Gurdwara united in their denunciation of the accused. However, it's noteworthy that the Calgary Police have not laid extortion-related charges against the accused, but did charge him with serious weapons charges. The victims also gave a statement at this press conference. Our investigation determined who the victims were. The police investigation has not yet concluded, but videos from the confrontation show the accused denying the accusations and instead appear to accuse the victim of defrauding people. The victim, Jahal Ramanjit Singh, owns and operates an immigration firm in Canada and has a branch in Punjab, India. The fact that the victim owns an immigration firm and the accused was arrested alongside an international student makes Bob think there is more to the story.
I believe there is a lot more to this story, such as immigration, LMIAs, sucking blood from international students and temporary foreign workers.
Upon investigating the immigration firm owned by the victim, we discovered several discrepancies. The firm's official website presents it as a legitimate entity with multiple awards, high customer ratings, and RCIC approval, offering typical immigration services such as study and work permits and visitor visas. However, the firm's social media presence tells a different story. Although it uses stock images of white and Asian individuals, the firm's sole cross-border branch is located in India. More interestingly, it maintains a separate, unlisted India-specific social media account that aligns with practices typical of other Indian immigration firms, which are questionable. This account reveals that the firm's clientele is predominantly Sikh, showcasing numerous customers like truck drivers, cooks, and farmers from its Indian branch who have successfully obtained visas and permits in Canada. We investigated one farmer who managed to secure a visa without passing the necessary English language tests, who now resides in Calgary, attending the same Gurdwara as the firm's owner, which raises questions about his current employment in Canada. Further, investigation into the victim's brother, which in Punjabi could also mean a close friend, reveals ownership of Great Hawk Transport. This company is listed as willing to employ through LMIAs and currently advertises various job openings for roles requiring little to no experience or education. This situation raises concerns about the potential misuse of LMIAs, where employers might prefer hiring foreign workers who are willing to pay substantial sums for job placements over Canadians due to financial incentives. The involvement of the victim and his brother in the questionable LMIA business thus warrants scrutiny.
In the Sikh Punjabi community in Canada, LMIAs are a commodity and they are sold to international students as well as desperate immigrants that face consequences of being returned back to their own countries.
If I invest 20 to 30,000 today and give it to some employer and said that I need a LMIA, he will sell me the LMIA, I will get, and that's illegal.
I spoke with international students in Toronto who are protesting due to fears of mass deportations now that Canadians realized the damage government-approved human traffickers are causing to Canada.
Have you ever witnessed or experienced exploitation?
In Canada, if you ask the question, everybody is going to say yes, because you face exploitation from all kinds. I faced exploitation from my employer who didn't pay me, even though I was working way less than the minimum wage at the time. I would not say that's particularly only our own community members, but yes, we have majorly faced the exploitation in the past from our own community members, like mostly the employers.
Considering these factors and the irony of the alleged extortionists being arrested with an international student whom the victims overwhelmed Canada with for their own financial gains, a more interesting question emerges. Now that he considers Canada unsafe and is contemplating renouncing his citizenship, will he stop profiting from facilitating mass immigration or warn his customers that Canada is not safe? Time will tell. Finally, do you have a message to the community?
It is better to pray in your heart than attend some compromised institution like Dashmesh Darbar and be contaminated through association. It is better to have a pure heart and be spiritual and pray inside your heart. Being a part of a congregation that is compromised and full of criminals, drug smugglers, extortionists, bloodsuckers, this is nothing to be proud of, right? I would say it is better to be alone than to be contaminated.
Neither man was charged with extortion, but the police investigation continues. Anyone with information can reach me at pr@mediabizargan.com. And anyone who would like to support my independent journalism so that I can afford to keep bringing you coverage like this can donate at mediabizargan.com/donate. Your support is appreciated. Thank you.